Okay, but you stepped forward and said, Cliffe, I used to be a follower of Christ. Now I no longer am. I'm an atheist. I hope you realize that when you move from faith in Christ to atheism, that all those wonderful things like do unto others as you would have them do unto you, like love your neighbor and love your enemy.
A young atheist corners Cliffe with a question that cuts deep. If religion is just a useful tool designed to control people, why should anyone believe it is true? He grew up in the church, walked away from faith, and now challenges Cliffe on free will, the meaning of life, and the hypocrisy baked into Christianity itself. Cliffe pushes back hard, arguing that rejecting God because of evidence still demands a standard, and daring the student to name what actually meets it. From predestination and nihilism to Jesus flipping tables in the temple, the debate shifts fast and hits harder. Because if life is ultimately meaningless, then love, justice, and morality are just opinions. But if a creator exists, everything changes. Now, let's step into the conversation.
So I was raised in a Presbyterian church, and there were a lot of Calvinists in my Presbyterian church, which I think is pretty common. And so a common trait with Calvinism is that they believe in predestination, which is where basically you can do anything, but it's already kind of been decided by God, or he at least knew about it. And so having been ingrained with that as a kid, it's really interesting to hear you talk about free will so much. It's like a very big divide.
Yeah.
But the main problem I have is that I think if you think about it long enough, it's pretty clear that free will isn't actually a real thing. And so the fact that you use it so often as your argument is really interesting. I was just wondering why you think free will is real, first of all.
I think free will is real because I'm convinced, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm convinced if she says to you, I love you, you're going to get excited. But if your dad calls you up tonight and says, I've been paying her $1,000 a week to love you, you'd be royally bummed out. Why? Because you know very well that love, in order to be real, must be free. And if it ain't free, it ain't love. Am I wrong?
Well, maybe, because I think that example is probably difficult because love is probably influenced by a lot of different factors. That goes into like attractiveness, and I don't think it really is free at all, actually, because it's probably based, I mean, this sounds really ridiculous, but it's probably based on a lot of, biological evolutionary stuff. But I didn't really want to get into that. I just wanted to ask about your opinion on free will. But the second thing that I really had a problem with was that you did something that to me seemed like, I don't know, a little bit cheap. It was like a scare tactic to keep people from bringing something up. And you said, I challenge you to come up with evidence for something that isn't God. And it's going to sound stupid. And that was kind of like, oh, that's mean, because I don't think that that's fair. But I mean, I'm an atheist now. And I think that rather than a lack of evidence that convinced me to not believe in God, it was almost more like, and I don't know if it was objective, but it's like personal evidence that God didn't exist. And so to me, first off, it was that really, to me, religion in general seemed like a thing that answered the difficult questions. And that seemed kind of cheap. But you did just address that with regards to, religion being a cop-out. But the second thing was that, so I read this really wise tweet one time. And it said, isn't it so convenient that everyone is born into the correct religion? And it's like, oh, that is really weird. Like, oh, if I was born over there, I'd be that. But I'm born over here and I'm this. And it isn't true overall. Some people, switch over or whatever. But I don't know. It just seems ludicrous for any religion to say, I'm the right one. Every single other one is wrong. And it's just weird how every single one says that. And the last thing was that, I don't know, along the lines of religion answering difficult questions, it also seemed like a really good way to give people a good way to think or feel that it's like a set of morals that any person can kind of agree with. And it just seems kind of useful. And so that was another qualm I kind of had with religion. But yeah, that was just, it's like evidence for the lack of God rather than lack of evidence for God that kind of convinced me. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Okay, now, I like the way you think. So can I start going through one after another? Because you've raised about 5 great questions,
Yes.
right? So I can't answer them all at the same time. We got to go one at a time. So interrupt me at any time, because I can tell you're respectful and you think well, so I think we can have a good go at it. First point, I am sorry for miscommunicating. When I said, if a person says to me, Cliffe, the reason that I cannot believe in God is because of lack of evidence. I have no problem, but I'm listening to the person. The reason I cannot believe in God is because of lack of evidence. If you would be able to prove God, I would believe in him. But you can give just a bit of evidence and it's not enough. I have no problem understanding that. But you see, what that person is saying is, in order for me to believe something, X amount of evidence, whatever the standard is that they've defined, has to be met before I believe, before I trust. So it's totally legitimate for me to turn to you and say, fine, I understand, not enough evidence for you to believe God exists, not enough evidence for you to believe that Jesus is the truth. So now, what do you believe? And how does whatever it is that you believe in meet this standard of evidence that obviously God and Christ have not met? What I said, sir, was the answers to those two questions over the past 34 years of me speaking on campuses have been so shallow, it's been scary. Which shows me the real reason that people reject God and reject Christ is not really because of lack of evidence. Because if it was lack of evidence, then what they were living for today, whatever that is, would be supported by more evidence. Okay, have I communicated clearly?
Yeah, I feel it. It's like, well, what I'm imagining when you say it sounds ridiculous. It's like, what do you believe in? It's like, oh, I believe in my shoes because they're between me and the ground. Is it stuff like that? Or is it like, did you say like, what are you living for?
What are you living for?
Oh, I can't even imagine how to respond to that. So that's a different question in itself.
Yeah, but see, Christ says, live for me because I'm the truth. Live to love me and to worship me and live to love others because I created you. And the evidence of the way he lived, fought, died, and rose from the dead point to his credibility. Now, it's not proof, so I can understand why someone would say, time out, Cliffe, I'm sorry, there's not enough evidence. Fine. But when you say there is not enough evidence, what you're doing is you're setting a standard that obviously Christ and God do not meet. So I want to know who or what does meet that standard. Let me give you one quick example. I was speaking at Columbia University in New York City, and some students invited me to their humanities class, where they were discussing the difference between Luther and Zwingli's view of war. And the professor was doing postdoc work, and he was from England, and he was brilliant. After the class, I'm walking with him down the stairways there in that building at Columbia, and I say, sir, that was an incredible class, an amazing discussion. What do you believe, and what's the evidence of what you believe is right? And this postdoc professor from England says to me, I am not a very good person for you to ask that question of. Sir, that's embarrassing. You're dressed very well. You articulate very well. You're obviously living for something. You're not here by accident. So if Jesus Christ is not reliable because of lack of evidence, then pray tell what or who is reliable and what is the evidence. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, it's kind of a lot to ask people who didn't have a decision to be alive to define why they exist constantly. I don't know. I exist because I exist, and there's not really a better way to do it, and so I might as well go about it in a way that is comfortable for me. Granted, that might be for someone religion, because, like I said, faith answers a lot of questions that are really difficult, which is the main problem I had with it. If you want to go into that one, so I really want to hear.
Okay, help me understand that one better. What do you mean when you say that?
It's so getting to believe in Christ to as a reason to live, right, is a choice. But for people that don't have that, I'm not saying there's nothing to live for, but I just don't think that it is the same as in a religion where it's expected of you to say, this is what I'm alive for. You don't have to have something like that where it's like, I'm living to please my parents. I'm living to fall in love. It's like I'm living because I'm alive, and I don't really need another reason because I don't have to define myself by one thing that is causing my existence.
Okay. If it is true that I am to live because I'm alive, then whether I smack him or whether I feed him is ultimately meaningless. Because in smacking him, I'm living, and in feeding him, I'm living.
Yeah.
So you see, I don't think it's sufficient for you as a thinking, rational person to say, I am living to live. You know that you have to make ethical decisions every day. And those ethical decisions that you make show what you really believe about reality. See, that's why agnosticism is an intellectual option, but it's a practical impossibility. Right?
Right. But with regard to ethical decisions, you're highly, subject to like societal rules as well. So I don't know if you can say that everybody probably has a set of morals, right? But that's really a lot of the time influenced by what's around them. I don't know. I think that this is gonna not get into what I wanted to, but things are pretty much meaningless, and you just kind of have to derive it for yourself. So I don't think that saying that feeding someone or slapping them is an argument for why you need a reason to do something. I don't know.
No, I think you're right when you said it's all meaningless. That's exactly Friedrich Nietzsche's point, right?
Yeah.
There is no God. Therefore, all you atheists who are running around acting like love is a really good idea, justice is a really good idea, you guys are out to lunch. You're not thinking. Because if there is no God, love is totally relative, justice is totally relative, and life is ultimately meaningless.
Right.
Is that where you are then?
Kind of. And you could argue that that's not a way to go about it, but this is something that's totally subject to each person's personal beliefs, and I'm not arguing for nihilism or anything, so I didn't really want to get into that. But I don't know, that was my main argument against having faith as like your main reason versus having to have a substitute.
Right.
I think that they're totally different.
Right. Okay, but you stepped forward and said, Cliff, I used to be a follower of Christ. Now I no longer am. I'm an atheist. I hope you realize that when you move from faith in Christ to atheism, that all those wonderful things like do unto others as you would have them do unto you, like love your neighbor and love your enemy, are hogwash. They're ultimately meaningless. I hope you're not living your atheistic life as if the golden rule, yeah, man, that's really important.
No, I think that for me personally, it's more of like what I've derived based on what I feel is right. I don't know. I can't go into everything that's influenced my moral structure right now because I don't have all of that together. But it's like, it wasn't like I went from being a Christian to being like, oh, this is something better over here. It's like, oh, I really want to believe in this, but I really can't because I cannot convince myself. And oh, this is the thing. I saw this and now I don't believe in it anymore. It happened as a matter of my personal logic, I guess. Like I said, evidence that I saw for me was enough that religion was malarkey.
Okay, now I didn't say it, you said it. The reason you turned from faith in Christ to atheism was because of logic. Please give me the logic.
I already gave you my reasons earlier.
Which was what?
Okay, so it seemed, basically, overall, it seemed like religion was a really constructed, useful tool. And when I saw that, I was already having doubts and I couldn't make myself believe it anymore because that seemed cheap. Basically, because it answers your questions about things that actually don't have an answer, like meaning of life. Because it instills a set of morals on people that otherwise might not have any. That seems really useful. And because everyone's kind of born into the correct one, depending on geographical location.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is, if it's useful, it's false.
No.
You really live your life that way?
No, but something that calls for faith as like a reason to exist, but is also so conveniently useful to control people and to give them something to follow. I couldn't do it anymore.
Well, then why do you have friends? Obviously, friends are useful. Obviously, friends help make your day go round and round. So if you can't accept that which is useful because it's useful, what are you doing making friends?
Maybe I don't have any friends.
Okay, well, I hope you do. I'm sure you do. Okay?
And what I'm saying is it seems too constructed for something and it's been used in that way to control or to cause violence. All religion has.
Yeah.
And you can say that's a bad apple, but when now all of the religions, or at least the sects of Christianity, are pretty much seeds from the bad apple tree, how can you say that that any church that was initially based on the Catholic Church, which did all this terrible stuff, can be good now. Like I guess Reformation, but it's all built on the same beliefs that were used for this. Let's just say hypothetically, there's a guy in Texas who uses Christianity to get a lot of money. Not going to name any names, but that seems so wrong to me. I can't buy his books because I don't want to pay for God.
So I think it's real clear. You don't have to have a PhD in religion to smell out a phony. You're right. People use religion to manipulate people and to make money. But now, what did Jesus do to the people who used religion to make money? What did you do to them?
Sure, he messed him up.
Well, come on, you know, from your Presbyterian church background, I'm sure you read about Jesus.
He flipped the tables. He got really mad. It was the closest thing to sinning he ever did.
There you go.
Sorry, that's what it seemed like to me when I was a kid.
You're right.
That's mean.
You're right. Okay, but don't just hear yourself. You're saying, and you know, this whole bit about Christianity, man, we got these well-known people in Texas who make a ton of money by selling books and using people's religion to get their money. Yeah, that tells you a lot about those individuals, doesn't it? But you better have the open-mindedness to go back to the source documents, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and find out, is that the way Jesus jerked people around? And what you find is he did the opposite. He walked right into the temple grounds, saw people doing exactly what you're saying, and he flipped the tables over and drove them out of the temple. So it seems to me that you should be attracted not to Christianity, but to Jesus Christ, because you agree with him, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's not that I'm not attracted to Jesus, because it's like somebody was saying earlier, it's like a pretty good, perfect model to follow, right? There's no reason to not like it. It's just the religion as a whole, Christianity as a whole, as well as religion as a whole, that I can't agree with. And I mean, I tried to express why already, but...
Well, sure, but wait a second. I agree with you. I abhor the Crusades, the Inquisition, the Salem witch trials, gay bashing, particular church called Westboro, on and on. I abhor white Christians enslaving African Americans. That is horrible. So we're right together. And guess what? Jesus is right there with us. He's saying, guess what? That's evil. So don't allow religious hypocrites to turn you off to the true Christ who didn't have a hypocritical bone in his body. Now, you know who you really need to get to know, I feel, are African American followers of Jesus. Because compared to you and me, African Americans have a much better reason to reject Christ because of religious hypocrites. Because grandma and great-grandma and grandpa were enslaved by white Christians. So if anybody on this campus has a right to reject Christ because of Christian hypocrites, it's my African American brothers and sisters. But you see, what do they show? They show an open-mindedness where they say, guess what? I'm not going to give a white Christian racist the power to turn me off to the true Jesus who did not have a racist bone in his body. That's good, open-minded, objective thinking. For me to sit back and say, oh, you know, the Christian hypocrites, they really burned me. Yeah, they burned me. And they probably burned you as well. They burned me, okay? But that tells you nothing about Jesus. It tells you a lot about those Christian hypocrites. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And so I guess coupled with, I mean, then if you get past that, what really
Yes.
is the zinger is
That's
the
what I
fact
want.
that there's so many religions that
Yeah.
are correct. And how are you supposed to know which one is right? You can't.
Okay, good. All right,
Because they're all conflicting with each other.
Wait a
You
second.
can't do it.
All right. I think you just did, about 2 minutes ago, an incredibly fine job critiquing some false Christianity. You nailed them. You did it publicly. You were very smart. You didn't name their names, but I think a few of us around here might have some ideas who you're talking about. All right? So what is that? That is good, healthy skepticism. Just because someone says, I believe in God and this is God, doesn't mean they're speaking the truth. And you showed some good, healthy skepticism in saying, you know, that really turns me off. Bravo. Now, that's the way you have to study the different religions. Can't just say, I believe in this one. No. As a skeptic, you got to go and read the source documents, the Quran, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, whatever the option is you're considering. And I'm standing here pleading with you guys, also read the Gospels and then compare and contrast. Figure it out. And you've already proved to me that you know how to sniff out a hypocrite. You've already proved to me that you know how to sniff out some falsehood. Keep going. Don't stop. Keep going. That make sense?
But what you just told me is not choose a religion based on faith, but choose a religion based on evidence.
You got it well.
That's not what I believe the entire time. So,
and that's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Obviously, I can't make it up to you other than try and think with you as clearly as I'm able. And obviously, I've got limitations. I'm pleading with you. Forget about your church background. Objective. Read the Gospels and ask yourself, does the evidence, the way Jesus lived, the way he treated people, demand your respect? Does mine? Why? Because I've tried to treat people the way Jesus did, and I failed. He did fail. I got to respect him. Secondly, read his teachings. Robert Coles, a psychology professor at Harvard, puts it this way. All the writings on ethics over the past 2,000 years are simply footnotes to the Sermon on the Mount. Read Matthew 5, 6, and 7. It is sheer ethical brilliance. Demands my respect. Thirdly, watch the way he dies. Nailed to a wooden crossbeam instead of cursing his enemies, the way this sucker would have. I'd have been condemning those dudes. Instead, Jesus prays, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But fourthly, and most importantly, the historical evidence is 3 days after he died, he bodily rises from the dead. And over a period of 40 days, appears to over 500 people, Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 15,